Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori, and today we are going to take a quick peek into my priority reads for this year in 2025 and if I'm actually reading any of them. Now, back at the end of 2023, I made a video about 24 books that I wanted to read in the year 2024. And guys, it was abysmal. I read a grand total of 9 out of the 24 books that I said I wanted to read in 2024. We can just say that my mood drastically changed throughout that year, and I ended up reading a lot of great books, just not a lot of the ones that were on my priority list. November 2024 rolled around and I made 25 books I want to read in 2025, which you can go and watch up in the cards. And I had a great time, and I put a whole bunch of things on my priority list, and I just counted them now and realized that there are 42 total individual priority reads, as well as 5 series that I was hoping to get to this year. So let's start with the series. I really wanted to make progress on Malazan Book of the Fallen this year, and my goal was to read at least 3 more Malazan books this year. And I'm happy to report that I have read Memories of Ice, which is book 3. That was a reread for me. And I'm currently halfway through my reread of House of Chains, which I hope to finish this month or in October, and then take the last 2 months of the year to read Midnight Tides, which will be my first new Malazan book. And I'm very excited about that. So I feel like I'm actually doing pretty well with my Malazan reread, and I look forward to finishing my reread of the first 4 books and moving on. It's gonna be great fun. The next series on my list was the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb. Now, for those of you that were around on my channel last year, I had a rough experience with Ship of Magic, which is book 1 in her Live Ship Traders trilogy, the one right before this. And I wasn't sure if I was going to continue at all for a while, but Tawny Man was still appealing to me because it follows the characters from the first trilogy and kind of separates a little bit from the events and characters of Live Ships. And so I was willing to go back to it, I was willing to give it a shot, but I haven't gotten to the point where I'm ready to pick it up yet. I honestly don't know if I'm going to be able to start it this year or not, maybe if I'm struck by inspiration, but I'm okay with that. One of the things that I've learned in my time on BookTube specifically is that if there's a series that just feels like I'm forcing myself into it after a while, I kind of put it to the side and just let it rest, because I found that I'm going to have a way better experience with it if I let myself say, no, not right now. So the next series on the list is Sun Eater by Christopher Rocchio, and this is a series that I was hoping to get to at least 2 books in the series, and I am proud to report that I have indeed read not 2, but 2 plus a novella, Empire of Silence, which was book 1, and Howling Dark, which was book 2, and I also read the Lesser Devil novella. Now, this is a series that I don't know yet if I'm going to be continuing. I'm giving it a little bit of a breather for now because especially book 2 was a really rough experience for me in terms of just the writing style and a bunch of other things. So that one I have officially checked off of my priority list. I tried it, I got through 2 books, and that was my goal. The next series on my list was Terry Pratchett's City Watch. I read 4 of the 8 books last year in 2024, and I was planning on reading the next 4 here in 2025. And I am happy to report that I have indeed read The Fifth Elephant and Night Watch, books 5 and 6, and my husband and I have officially started the audiobook for Thud, which is book 7, so I am on track to easily finish the series by the end of 2025, which feels amazing because this is a new favorite series for me and I absolutely love it. The last series that I had on my priority series list was that I wanted to read Harry Potter for the first time. I've read the first book. I grew up watching the movies in mid to late high school, I think mid-high school, but I wanted to read the books and see how different they were from the story that was told in the movies, because I do know that there's a lot of differences. And I did read book 1 last year, or early this year, I honestly can't remember, but I haven't had time to dedicate sitting down and just binging through all 7 books, and that's kind of how I want to read them. So I'm sure there will be a block of time that opens up for me to do that, and I'm really looking forward to it, but I don't know that I'm gonna be able to get it in this year All right, let's move into the individual priority reads that I wrote down in my bullet journal that I'm going to be using for reference. And let's see how many of these books I have officially read. And I will do a final tally at the end of the video. The first set of books that I had on here were 5 books, all by the same author, and they're just teeny tiny books, so I kind of included them as one thing. And that was my S.E. Hinton project. I'm a massive fan of The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And she had 5 other books that I hadn't read yet. And I wanted to do a little project where I read just books by her and did a little vlog or something. I haven't gotten to that yet, but I do think that I'm going to still be able to do that here in 2025. Because like I said, the books are super short and it's something that I think would be a really fun project. So I cannot check that box quite yet, but I'm looking forward to hopefully finishing that still here in 2025. Next up is Tower Lord by Anthony Ryan. This is book 2 of his series, The Raven's Shadow. I read Bloodsong back in 2023, I think. Loved it. It was amazing. Did I read it in 2024 or 2023? I can't remember. But I finally got to book 2, and I had an okay time with it, honestly. I didn't dislike it as a lot of other readers of the series have. I still had some nitpicks with it, but I did end up getting through Tower Lord. Next up, we have How Do You Live by Genzaburo Yoshino, which I just read this last month. It is supposedly Hayao Miyazaki's favorite novel of all time. I didn't particularly like it, to be perfectly honest, but I did read it. So yeah, that one was a little bit of a disappointment, but it is another book that I can check off from my list of translated Japanese books, which I'm having a great time with. And yeah, it feels good to have actually read it. Next up was a book that I read very early on in the year, and that is The Island of Sea Women by Lisa See, who is one of my absolute favorite historical fiction authors. I think she is absolutely brilliant at raw, nitty-gritty, honest historical tales with authentic characters at the heart. She's an amazing writer, highly recommend. And The Island of Sea Women, I think, was probably the heaviest book of hers that I've read so far. It was a lot emotionally, but still an absolutely brilliant 5-star read. The next one is The Legend of Eli Monpress by Rachel Aaron. This is one about kind of a quirky half-breed thief? Question mark. And the bind-up that I have has 3 books. They're all pretty short, so I just included them as one. And I unfortunately haven't gotten to this one yet. Next up is Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty. This one is basically a India myths and legends version of Game of Thrones, from what I've been told. And this is another one that I had high on my priority list for this year, and I have not gotten to it yet. I'm pretty split on how I'm going to feel about it, to be honest, based on what I've heard, but I'm still hoping to give it a chance and see what I think in the very near future. Next up is Flames of Mira by Clay Harmon. I don't know why I haven't read this book yet. I have every anticipation of absolutely loving this book. I've heard that it is a book that fans of a lot of the themes of Red Rising are really going to jive with, which of course makes me all the more excited to read it. So this is one that I definitely still like to prioritize here in 2025 and get to before the year is out. Next up is another book that I have not read, but I'm going to prioritize very heavily, and that is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I am absolutely determined to try Ishiguro's work this year. From everything I've heard, I think he's going to be an author that I really enjoy, and I have a couple of his books now, and I definitely want to start with Never Let Me Go, and that is one that I will definitely be reading before the end of the year. Next up is a book that I read by an author I already really loved, and that is Stoner by John Williams, who's the author of one of my favorite books of 2023, I think, Augustus, the story of Caesar Augustus' rise to power. And stoner is a completely different genre, a completely different tone, but still very much within John Williams' style, and I did read it. That was a pretty depressing book, I'm not gonna lie. However, I do think that John Williams is a brilliant writer, and I look forward to my next Williams read in the future. The next one on the list is The Company by K.J. Parker, which I also read, and you guys, 5 stars all day, every day. What an amazing book. This is, I think, the kind of story that isn't going to be appreciated within mainstream reading because it is so subtle and it is so deeply character focused. It has a little bit of a horror bent to it, which I actually really liked. And I really enjoyed that book, and I did end up reading it earlier this year. Next up, we have In the Orbit of Sirens by T.A. Bruno, which is a indie science fiction read. I've already read something by T.A. Bruno and really loved it, and I've been wanting to get to this first book in the trilogy for quite a while, and I just haven't, and I still haven't, which is really sad because I want to read it. And this is another one I'd definitely like to prioritize in 2025 and make sure that I read. Next up, we have Jeff Shara's historical fiction, The Frozen Hours. This is one that takes place around the Korean War, which is an era of history that I'm interested in delving into a little bit more. But I haven't read it yet, which is unfortunate because I really want to start digging into my now massive Jeff Shara hardcover collection that I've been slowly building the last couple of years. Next on the list was A Quiet Vengeance by Tim Hardy. This is a kind of Middle Eastern inspired, we went backwards from technology kind of world building style fantasy, which I thought was really intriguing. And I did actually end up reading this book fairly early on in the year and had a great time with it. Next up is The Deed of Paxenarian, and this is a book that I have the bind up of all 3 of the trilogy in one. So I kind of counted it as one, and this is also a book that I'm going to be starting here in September. So I haven't read it yet, but I will be very shortly, which is exciting because this is a book I've heard nothing but good things about, and I can't wait to see what Elizabeth Moon does with epic fantasy. The next one is another Japanese translated book called If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura, and I did read this one. I didn't love it, actually. I have enjoyed some of my other translated novels a lot more. This one really missed the mark for me, and there was entirely not enough cats. Next up is yet another translated fiction, and that is The Court Dancer by Kyung-Suk Shin. This one is about a young woman who rises to a position of some influence in ancient Korean court, I believe. And again, this is one that I've just really been interested in, and it's been sitting on my shelf staring at me for so long, but I still haven't read it. Next is the queen of murder mystery herself, And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I haven't actually read any Agatha Christie yet, and I feel like that is something that I need to remedy. And I have had every intention of remedying it here in 2025, and I haven't read it yet. Next up, another translated fiction, The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa. And this is a book that I have read, I think a couple months ago now. And you guys, what an absolutely beautiful read it was. This is such a deep, impactful little book. I highly recommend it for anybody. Honestly, it's so good. Next up is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa. This is another translated Japanese fiction, and I will be reading it here in the month of September if all goes to plan, and I'm really excited about it. So I haven't read it yet, but I will soon. This book I have heard quite possibly could make me cry. And it's about a man and his cat as they go on a road trip meeting up with friends, and I'm really looking forward to that. The next one on the list is another translated Korean novel, No One Writes Back by Jang Yoon-jin. This novel I did read, quote unquote, this last month. We're going to count it as a read. I did DNF it because some of the content right away in the beginning just really threw me out of the story, and I didn't love the way it was being written. But I did try it, and technically we're going to count that as a read. Next up is a story of some coal miners in Wales, and that is How Green Was My Valley by Richard Llewellyn. This was a book I didn't even know was a book. I just knew that it was an old black and white film that I had seen when I was a kid that really impacted me, and I wanted to read the story written about it. So I still haven't read it, but that is one that I'd really like to prioritize before the end of 2025. Next up is Midnight in Broad Daylight by Pamela Rotner Sakamoto. This is the story of a Japanese and Japanese American family that was split on two different sides of World War II when everything blew up in the Pacific. And this is another one that it's within an era of history that I'm incredibly intrigued by and have read a lot of stories from, and I'm really looking forward to reading one that kind of shows both sides of a family split by the war at the same time, but I haven't read it yet. Next up is Thousand Cranes by Yasunari Kawabata. This is a translated Japanese short novel. Are you sensing a theme here? And this is another one that I unfortunately haven't read. I believe that it's more literary fiction, and it kind of shows the subtle and tense relationships between a family and the eventual downfall, I think, of people in that family. And I'm really looking forward to that one, but again, I haven't read it yet. Next is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. This is the first book in the Expanse series, which I've been really excited to try, especially as I've been delving into more sci-fi, but I have not gotten to it yet. Next up is another Lisa C. novel, Lady Tan's Circle of Women. This is a story from historical China about a young woman who is a physician, I believe, within kind of a higher noble court. And I am really excited to get to another Lisa C. novel, hopefully this year, but I haven't read this one yet. Next up is Irish historical fantasy, The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. And this is a book that I have indeed read. And my goodness, can I just say that historical fantasy was a genre mashup that I wasn't entirely aware of or knew how much I needed in my life until I started reading things like Juliette Marillier's Daughter of the Forest and Shauna Lawless's Children of Gods and Fighting Men. What a great opener to a trilogy. So I'm very excited to keep reading that series, but I have indeed read the first book. The next one is Achilles in Vietnam by Jonathan Shea. This is a nonfiction book about the effects of war and combat on the mental health of veterans, and it's something that I am planning on reading just for personal interest, but also for some research for my own books as a writer. And this is one that I haven't gotten to yet. I haven't been in the right headspace for it, and I usually try to make sure that with any book like this, I make sure that I'm in a good headspace to dig into something like that, because I know that it can get really tough, as it should be, to read. And so I haven't read this one yet, but I do intend to very soon. Next up is another historical fiction called The Gates of the Alamo by Stephen Harrigan. And this is one that essentially details the battle at the Alamo and the men that were involved in it. And I have not read this one yet, but I've heard from the bookseller that I bought it from that it is one of his favorite historical fiction novels of all time. So I am really looking forward to getting to it when I get to it. Next up, we have Riven Earth by Zamar Amer, and this is an indie fantasy book that has nymphs and dryads in the very beginning of the story, which is so cool. That is an underrated fantasy creature, in my opinion, and I would love to see more dryads in fantasy, so authors take note. I did finish this first book. It is a duology, and I'm not entirely sure when I'm going to finish reading the second book, but I did indeed read the first book in the series. Next up, we have a duology by Juliette Marillier, who is an author that I have really fallen in love with over the last year, and that is the duology of Wolfskin and Foxmask. This one delves into Viking historical fantasy a little bit more, and I believe from what I've heard, it's basically the story of the berserkers when they're at home and not pillaging, which I think sounds really interesting, and I know that Juliette Marillier is going to handle it beautifully. However, I have not read them yet. Next up is a book that was actually recommended to me by one of my favorite authors, Stephen Erickson, and he recommended that I read Cannery Row by John Steinbeck. And it's such a tiny little book, and I read the first couple pages of it a while back and was really impressed, but I'm really looking forward to actually finishing it, and that is one that I would like to prioritize still in 2025 and get to, but I have not read it yet. Next up is the only book on my priority list for this year that was a reread, and that is The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is one of my absolute favorite fantasy novels, and it's been probably 4 or 5 years since I read it, and I really want to delve back into it and find out if my experience with it the second time around is just as good. I'm anticipating that, but I have not read it yet. Next up is The Opposite of Butterfly Hunting, which is the memoir of Evanna Lynch, who played Luna Lovegood in the Harry Potter films. I read Tom Felton's memoir last year and really enjoyed it, and I really wanted to try Evanna Lynch's as well. I do have this one on audiobook, which is the reason why primarily I haven't finished reading it yet. I did start it, but I haven't finished it, so we're going to count it as a unread from the list because I do still need to actually go back and finish reading and listening to the story. Next up is book 3 in a epic fantasy series written by my good friend Andrew D. Meredith, and that is Gloves of Eons, book 3 of the Collation Saga. And this is one that I prioritized for this year. I really wanted to get through book 3 and possibly book 4 as well, so that I'm caught up on the series. And I did in fact read Gloves of Eons back in the beginning of the year and had a great time with it. The characters are really starting to feel familiar and like I'm walking back into that comfortable home space as I'm reading the series, which feels amazing, and I'm really looking forward to reading book 4. And last but not least, we have the last 2 books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. This is one of my husband's favorite fantasy series of all time. I just did a review on this series and had a really great time with it, and I did in fact finish both The Hod King and The Fall of Babel from this series in the last few months, and just wow, you guys, what a unique fantasy series. If you're looking for something different from the normal traditional fantasy reads, I highly recommend checking out the Books of Babel. So guys, if we omit the series and we're only talking about the 42 books that I mentioned within the individual priority reads, we have 42 books total that were on that priority list. And I've read 56 books this year, so technically speaking, I could have read everything that was on my priority list. However, I obviously have not. So let's figure out how many total I have read. All right, guys, so out of those 42 priority reads for 2025, I've officially read, drumroll please, 14, which I'm really excited about because that is more already in the beginning of September than I read all of 2024 in my priority reads. And I know I didn't have quite as many of them that year, but I still had quite a few that I didn't list in my video, and I was thrilled to see that I have actually read more than last year of my priority reads. And I do intend to continue to pick books off of my priority reads list. The way I look at it is that it's kind of like a prompt jar in a way, where if I'm not really sure how I want to go with my reading mood next or what I want to pick up off the shelf, I will flip open my bullet journal and look at my priority reads and see if there's one that catches my fancy. But yeah, it's kind of a guideline, it's kind of fun, and I'm not pressuring myself to finish a certain number by the end of the year, but I wanted to see how many of them had actually made it onto my reading list this year. So I would love to know down in the comments below if there are some books that you really wanted to get to this year that you have, and what books are still languishing on your TBR that you really want to still get to here in 2025 in the last few months of the year. So thank you so much for hanging out with me again today. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and I hope that you are reading some 5-star reads no matter what genre they're in. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.